welcome to the MLDMHI podcast. We have with us Dr. Navnit Vachhani. Well, he needs little introduction. He is one of our alumni, proud alumni of MLDMHI. Very well read, academically well accomplished. Not just academically, I would say he, I would like to call him as a chef with many hats, because he is also proficient in the performing arts, music, composing, photography, the least to say. So, sir,
yes,
we'll begin our Q&A session today. The topic for the day is repertory in practice, a topic that is discussed a lot in the classroom, outside the classroom, in the clinic, and we'll take up some questions today which we hope that will benefit you a lot in your academics, which means the people who are studying in their BHMS, in their MD, in their PhD, for those who are early practitioners, who have just started their practice, and also hopefully for those who are senior practitioners. So, sir, the first question is, repertory being one of the most important tools in practice, where does this subject stand in homeopathic practice? What is the location, or what is the standing of this subject as such?
A very interesting questions and very relevant, basically. If we see the subject of repertory, and if we compare the place of repertory in study, the regular study which we all go through in our academics or BHMS or MD, and repertory in practice, there seems to be a very wide difference, because in practical scenario or in practice, repertory holds a lot of value and lot of usefulness as far as its application and utility for management is concerned, because it's a very essential tool. And unless otherwise you are very thorough with your materia medica, or you are following some very highly specified method, otherwise in general, in regular homeopathy, in classical homeopathy, repertory is very essential tool. So it requires, as far as initial few years of practice is concerned, you required almost in most of the cases to handle or to reach to the right remedy. So basically it pervades all of your homeopathic practice as far as its application is concerned. Otherwise, if we compare the repertory in practice and repertory in our study before we start the practice, so I can see a lot of slight difference in importance, because repertory is very of immense value, but in study, in our curriculum or whatsoever, we usually give relatively less importance to repertory. But in comparison with that, repertory is very much more important as far as clinical practice is concerned. Because without repertory, you cannot do a genuine or judicious practice in a regular scenario, because there are some exception mind, there are brilliant mind who holds a lot of materia medica together in their brain, but we all are not the same. So for the average or for most of us, repertory holds a very essential value in our practice. So we should give enough importance during our study as well as during our practice. So that is what I see. Without the repertory, I cannot imagine my practice. And I suggest in the initial few years of homeopathic practice, it holds a lot of value, because it guides you, it supports you when you are lost or when you are not able to find remedy directly or whatsoever. So I think in this way, study versus practice. Okay.
True. Making a marked distinction between study and practice of repertory, and the use of repertory in academics and in practice is, as I understand, is quite relevant, and we have touched the right point, I believe, over here. So, sir, what should an ideal journey of learning repertory be like? And I would like to know this from your own experience, because you yourself are a subject expert.
Okay. So what is ideal, that is very individual thing, because we all have our different backgrounds, we all have our different tendency to approach a case, or we all have our different brain faculties which suits us to find a homeopathic remedy or indicated remedy in a different way. So that's the one aspect of it. But if I can share my journey, I was interested in repertory once I got to know about Dr. Dhawale's work in Principle and Practice of Homeopathy during my, I think, final year or so. When I got to know there are different approaches he has worked on. Till then, I was knowing that repertory is a tool which help you in finding a remedy. But I got to know there has been a work which has been done very systematically and in an integrated way. So there I started a very good interest in the practical aspect of repertory, and I started studying it. That was the starting of my studying repertory in a very practical way, we can say. Theoretically, it's been the same. We study the 4th year, we study the syllabus, we give exam. That's the same thing. But from practical point of view, I dive deep into the Dhawale sir's work. And when I got admission into PG repertory at MLDMHI Bagdar, so there I was guided in a repertory study in a very systematic way. And I can say Dr. Dhawale sir's work, Dr. L.D. Dhawale and M.L. Dhawale's work in repertory, as well as Dr. Kasat sir's work, this work was my, we can say, foundation work around which I try to build my understanding of repertory. And then I studied different stalwarts of repertory, keeping them in the center. So this was one aspect. Another is I just didn't try to finish the syllabus, even repertory PG. I tried to relate it with and Anup sir guided me how to dive deep into the subject when you are studying, even practically as well as theoretically. So we explored some theoretical aspects which were very helpful in practical aspect, which was non-conventional type of study of repertory. So this was my journey, we can say, and right now I'm exploring in a bit more practical way or more practical aspect, as well as some lateral academic aspect also. And ideally, if we should learn repertory in a proper way in practice, so you cannot miss the theoretical aspect. Theory is not just the understanding some chapters from your textbook. It's not that. Theory is you learn about repertory in particular, author in particular, author's life in particular. You understand, you try to understand what is the philosophy of that author, personal philosophy of that. What's the background in which repertory has been built, and what was the background of medical scenario during the time where repertory has been built. So if we see the Bonninghausen repertory, that has a different scenario. If we see Borik's repertory, his scenario or his background is slightly different. So we need to understand in that fashion, so we can better understand every repertory, and we can respect every author's work, and that's how we can use them in a correct way. So it's not that this is my favorite and those are dumb. No, every repertory is useful, but you need to understand how they are useful, their scope and limitation both. So ideal journey should be you study first the major work of repertory in a more depth. It seems a bit tedious sometimes, but it is very useful, and it gives you context as well as depth of understanding. I can see many students in 4th year or internship or beginners, they are directly using modern repertories without understanding the basic of Bonninghausen and Kent also. So that is very dangerous practice. So you need to understand the foundation, how repertory subject is built and how it can be evolved into the where we are now in the form of modern repertory and so. So you can better and genuinely use every repertory when it needed. So this is how I see ideal study should be.
Interesting, sir. So the first thing that I understood from the description that you gave is that the background of the author, the circumstances in which the author had written the literature, that is important. The second thing is which really touched my heart is not just finish the syllabus but understand its practical application. Most of us, even I as a student, would always be in a hurry, or the goal would be to finish the syllabus, to score more marks, to ensure that the answer is written right. But when it comes to the practical application, that is something where we need to really dive deep. So
Yes.
really appreciate and thank you for this insight. Really helpful. Okay, sir. The next question I would like to ask you is, which is the most important repertory in practice, and any one particular repertory that you use?
So many of homeopaths are practicing that fashion, some focusing on one particular repertory, but being trained in the system which I have described. So I'm not focusing on one particular repertory as far as practical application is concerned. So I personally use almost whatever may be the possible repertory which I found useful, as well as I found indicated as per the requirement of the case. Sometimes I use Phatak's repertory in my case. Sometimes I repertorize through BBCR. If I see that this case is better be analyzed through BBCR. In majority of cases, or if we see the larger and regular type of cases where we have a good type of data in every aspect of our case, so then I use also Kent and even complete repertory and modern repertory also. And the small repertories I usually very less frequently use, not too much frequently, but the regular repertories, if you can say, modern repertories, Kent repertory, BBCR, sometimes therapeutic pocket book also. It seems to be an ancient one, but it is very practical in today's era also, and Phatak repertory also. So I shifted between them as per the need of case. So that is my approach. Also, basically, there is no one repertory which is most important in our practice. Yes, but there should be, or there would be one repertory which you will find more useful for your style of thinking. So when you study many repertories, or when you try to apply different repertories, you will get to know which repertory suits you or your need better, which is you are comfortable with the repertory, with one particular repertory. So it will happen after some time, not initially. So don't stick to one repertory as far as the initiation or beginning is concerned. So try to explore every repertory. You will get to know which repertory suits you better, or suits your need in your practice or style of practice in a better way. Because so in our PG days, we used to visit Bhopoli and those tribal areas. So there we need a different type of approach in our cases. We have different type of data. So we need different type of case analysis in repertory also. The Boric repertory and Phatak repertory are the most useful one in that sense. Okay, so it depends on which type of cases you are getting. So which is the one repertory which is most useful? I cannot say one. It can be many, but to your need, it can be one, but after some times of use, and that can be different for every practitioner. That is my view on that question. Okay.
Interesting, sir. One point I believe was quite deep, and it particularly style of practice and the repertory that you are comfortable with. We've heard a lot of time that the case demands the materia medica, or the case demands the repertory, but this has gone a step deeper. The point that you just mentioned.
Fine.
Quite interesting. Okay, sir. What about softwares? Any particular software that you feel is more useful, or in practice?
Before going into the software question, okay, I shall share one good incident from the past. Basically, Dr. P. Sankaran went to the training to US with Elizabeth Hubbard. Right. There she used to give training to their students in a Kent's repertory. Okay. The sir was trained in even Boger synoptic. He was very good with Boger synoptic. So there they used to give assignment and to be solved with Kent repertory. So everybody was solving, taking almost 45 to 60 minutes. And with synoptic key, he used to solve within few minutes, say for 15 or 20 minutes. That's it. So it depends how your brain is working, how you see at a case with the background of philosophy. And in that connection, how you are able to manipulate that particular repertory. So every repertory is useful, but you need to understand how to manipulate it, how to get maximum out of that repertory. So it doesn't practically matter one is more important or that other is more important. And about software, which is very important. So let's not confuse it. I have tried many softwares, and I personally find that every software is very good. They have put a lot of effort in that, and every software gives a different type of facilities to you. And one central core facility is about repertorization. That is the very core of every homeopathic software. But they are peripherally they are giving more some extra modules and some other facilities and all those things. So basically, how you should pick up software in your practice, that depends on first is your budget. That's one thing. Another is which type of need you are having in your practice from software. See, which type of practice you are doing, what type of method, what type of style of practice you are following. If you are into some particular very specific method, you need a specific type of software. If you need a general software just to repertorize, then you can choose from them according to your need. So it depends. See, some softwares are browser based. I have explored them, and they provide a very limited option of repertory. So I considering my style of repertorization, I try to use many repertories. So that's not very well suited to my need. So I try to select the software which gives me multiple repertory and a facility to repertorize from multiple repertory together. So it depends which type of practice you are doing. So there are some dedicated software for dedicated repertory. I have come across. There is one very dedicated software which is based on only Borringhausen therapeutic pocket book. So I liked it, but I used only when I has to repertorize from therapeutic pocket. But in general, I need to have a polycrest software basically. So one thing you try to keep in mind when you try to use software. First, you have to have a clarity in your mind. What is the actual need for you from the software? So basically, the most basic need is to a mechanical calculation of repertorization. That is a very basic one. Without understanding basic case analysis, if you dive into the software directly, it will not help you out as it should be. Okay. So my general advice is to all is just try to understand how homeopathic case analysis works. Try to do paperwork as much as you can, and then just for mechanical help, you do software analysis. This should be your approach in the initial days, and then you can use software according to your need, and you can do a permutation combination as per your exploration. So it's up to you about your need and about your budget. So that's my advice about software. But before software, you need to be very clear about methodologies, case analysis, and philosophy, and how you should pick up the most important symptom out of your case. Don't try to jump into software without understanding your case. So that's the one most important suggestion I would like to give.
So again, like in homeopathy, philosophy first, application and action later, the foundation first. Very interesting. Okay. Sir, this is a common observation, I believe, and I would like the audience to mention in the comments if they also feel so, is that out of the so many repertories, I've seen that Boger Synoptic Key and Phatak, they trend the most everywhere on social media, in webinars, so on and so forth. Is my observation right? And if yes, what are your thoughts on that? And I would also request the audience to mention in the comments if they too feel so, or if they have also observed something like this. Okay.
You are partially right, Kayur, according to me, because I have seen Phatak repertory trending all over in practical circles, in academics, in seminars, webinars, personal use. I have seen Phatak repertory in hand of a intern student as well as in a very mature physician, everywhere. But I have not seen a lot of things about Boger Synoptic Key. Okay, so that's not my observation as far as Boger Synoptic Key is concerned. Very few people recognized it as a practically useful book because it's almost neglected one. But as far as Phatak is concerned, it's excellent. And I have also seen that it's trending everywhere. It's the most popular book in a mature academician's world as well as in a very amateur student world. Okay, so that's the beauty of Phatak. But very interesting observation is Phatak repertory has been built on the basis of Boger synoptic key, and it is most popular in a way that first is it's handy, another is its structure is very simple, alphabetically arranged, and very easy to find rubrics. That is, this fact makes it a very popular repertory. Third point is Phatak has picked up the most important rubric as well as most important remedies. So sometimes you are not thorough with the philosophy, but you pick up, apparently write rubrics and you are done with that and it's working. So you will find that Phatak is great. Basically, he has picked up the most important remedies. So you are likely to get a very correct remedy in that particular group of repertorization remedies. So in that way, it's working with the genius of Phatak. But if we seriously talk about Phatak repertory, we need to understand how Phatak has built his repertory. What is the meaning about selectively picking up the rubrics in particular small form of repertory? What it means to us while using it? Because Phatak has picked up only essential rubrics in his repertory. So you need to understand that the rubrics you are referring from Phatak needs to be very essential from your case. It's not that you are casually picking up your any rubrics from your case and repertorizing through Phatak. No. It should be that much important in your case too, because Phatak or Boger has picked up very important rubrics and very important remedies. So what symptoms or what rubrics you are referring from Phatak or Boger, that should be very, very important aspect of your case. Not just the casual aspect or not the long list of symptoms from your case. For that you have a larger repertories, because there you have a larger collection of rubric as well as larger collection of remedies. So Phatak works in this way. Another misconception I want to highlight on this occasion, if you have triggered this discussion, that sometimes we recognize Phatak as a clinical repertory and we are trying to search diagnostic rubric from Phatak. That's not a right thing to do, because he has given clinical rubrics, but that doesn't make it a clinical repertory. See, basically, Borik's repertory is a clinical repertory. Phatak's repertory is a concise repertory which gives you some of clinical data. So you need to see in that way. Okay, so it's not referring diagnostic rubric. Diagnostic rubric means that those particular remedies covers possibly those particular clinical condition in a better way, provided with that group of symptoms in their materia medica. So you need to understand the whole algorithm as well as whole background, how repertory has been built. Then you will better use it. So about Phatak, I see the Phatak repertory in this way. So if you are using and not understood philosophy properly, try to use philosophy, continue using it, and try to continue using it in a more understanding way. Yes,
Sir, just a supplementary question, if I may ask this.
Yeah.
That does it mean, if I understood it rightly, is that Phatak repertory sounds more like a supplementary or a reference repertory than a primary repertory? Have I understood it right, sir?
Partly, basically. As far as reference is concerned, any repertory can be a reference repertory, because for that you refer one or two rubrics, and it depends on which rubrics. So I will break down your question and taking one by one, bit by bit. So one is Phatak himself was using Kent's repertory as well as BBCR as well as therapeutic pocketbook for his reference. Even Boger himself had a lot of repertories on his table and lot of materia medica. Old materia medica and old repertories, then he also used to refer Bonninghausen and Jar's work. So as far as reference is concerned, you should refer from a vast variety of literature. So you cannot narrow down to one, because then there will be no point for reference. Because for reference, you need a very specific answer. So it's not the repertory for reference. That's the one thing. It can be primary repertory if you understand how to use it, how to manipulate those rubrics, and how to raise rubrics from your case. So for Phatak himself, Bogus synoptic key was a primary repertory, and out of that he make Phatak repertory. So small repertory can be primary repertory. There is no doubt about it. But your practice, your way of practice, and your understanding should be aligned with that philosophy and structure of that particular small repertory. So it's not the primary repertory should be the larger one. It depends how you use it. So Phatak can be a primary repertory. One of my friends is using Phatak repertory. He is not from repertory background, but he is using Phatak as a primary repertory in his practice. Book repertory, not even he is not using software also, and he is doing good with it. So it can be primary repertory, provided you understand how to use it. And about reference, what I have to, it can be any repertory, not just the Phatak repertory. So you can refer from Phatak, you can refer from Nair repertory, you can refer from Kent repertory.
Right, sir. That clears the air about the supplementary question. And sir, which is that one good book or books that you would suggest for learning repertory for practical purposes?
Okay. So I would suggest 2 points on that. As far as my study is concerned, the book Principle and Practice of Homeopathy by Dr. Dhawale has helped me a lot to build a foundation of understanding of repertory from conceptual as well as practical purpose. And it helped me a lot in getting clarity about repertory and repertorization, not just one repertory, but all of the classical repertories. So that is one book I would highly recommend to all of you to study repertory from a practical purpose. This is one thing. Point 2 is, nowadays we are not doing this. We are directly jumping into the videos, or we are directly jumping into the some sort of guidebook. That's okay, not a problem with that. But what we are missing is we are not studying the original literature of a repertory. For example, if we try to understand BBCR, we try to refer from the book how to use BBCR. Okay, no problem. But you just first need to read preface of the BBCR first before even opening the BBCR. So another point is you need to refer the original words of the author, what he has to talk about, why he has built that repertory, how to use that repertory, and what is his view on his own repertory. So try to read preface and introduction and other articles which author himself has written for his own repertory or his own way of repertorization. So try to read preface of Kent. Try to read those papers by M.L. Tyler and John Weir, Dr. John Weir, given in the preface of. But unluckily, there are some copies, or some students have the small copies, which doesn't even include preface also. So try to get from other sources, even from internet or some other books. So you will get from there. So try to read all the prefaces, all the original article by author himself about his repertory. So that is one more important aspect for study about repertory. And then there is no problem with using any repertory particularly. But if we understand the foundation, basics, and evolution of repertory, then we can use repertory, any repertory, in a very judicious and useful way. That is what I have understood and experienced. Otherwise, if you jump into one particular repertory, that will not help you in a very classical fashion. Okay.
Well, what can I say? We are nearing the end of the podcast, and the feeling that I'm left with is that one is that I really don't know so much about repertory after listening to this session. Number 2 is I would like to learn more, and I would like to apply that in practice. And I would request the audience if they also feel so. And yes, we will now take up some questions. But before that, sir, I would request you to give a take-home message to all of us, for students early practitioners, senior practitioners, interns, all of us.
So if I want to conclude it about repertory in practice, so it is a very important aspect of your practice. So don't try to neglect it. Give a very serious attention to it. Don't be confused. Study yourself and try to study every method, every repertory, and then you can narrow down to one or two particular repertory which is suited to you in a very better way. As even Phatak has suggested, there are many authorities in the field or in the subject, but as far as you are concerned, you are the authority. So don't try to afraid to apply your understanding in your cases. As far as you feel it's right and it has evolved from your genuine study. This is one thing, and otherwise follow the method after studying every different paths. So basically, if I put in a Harivansh Rai Bachchan's words, it's like किस पथ से जाऊं, असमंजस में है वह भोला भाला, अलग अलग पथ बतलाते सब, पर मैं यह बतलाता हूँ, राह पकड़ तो एक चला चल, पा जाएगा मधुशाला.
Fantastic, sir. Seriously.
So you can have faith in your study, understanding, and application. So this how we can say we can conclude this session. Any question we can take?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, we have one question. I'll just read it from the chat. Sanskar Homeocare is written, sir, why more stress on repertory? How to use organon knowledge in repertory? I hope I've understood the question right.
Yeah. Basically, I'm not focusing or stressing on repertory, but today's topic is focused on repertory in practice, because you cannot discuss total homeopathy in Insta Live together. So we have the limited time and limited attention. So attention is a commodity nowadays, basically, and it's limited, basically. So we are discussing on particular points. So that's why I'm talking about repertory. You cannot neglect organ. And I agree that you cannot use repertory in a proper way without organ. So if you miss organ or the right foundation or the philosophy, so repertory is not going to help you, because which symptoms are useful and which are not, that is the part of our philosophy. So even I have talked many times in my posts and videos also that organon, repertory, and materia medica, these are so much integrated, and materia and repertory are tools, but organon is the soul of our practice. So you cannot miss that, and it pervades all of our practice. And repertory is a tool in that you have to use in the light of organon. So that I agree with. But as we have limited attention and time span, so we are focusing on repertory and we are discussing on particular subject. So I cannot say that we should neglect organon anywhere, even in the use of repertory also. So that we have talked. So you should use the repertory as per the need of your case. That's the part of organon, not the repertory. Yeah. Other question?
Right, sir. So Dr. Vansh has asked any opinion on utility of many small clinical repertories.
Okay. So actually, I have particularly I have used some of them, not all of them. I have not explored enough to say with the authority to comment on that. But I have personally used Bell's diarrhea with a good results. And sometimes I have used the Clark's and Lee cough and expectoration also. Otherwise, there are many other repertory also. But I think I have not explored them enough to say its utility in practice. But they are useful. But to say, if we see the background, how there has been evolved during the time between Bonninghausen and evolution of Kent. So most of the repertories has been developed between the time of Kent and Bonninghausen. And most of them are following Bonninghausen's way to approach the case, mostly the location, senses, and modality and concomitant. But their own practice were focused on some particular type of cases or particular type of system. So for their own utility. They have developed their practice. So in particularly, I have, as far as repertory is concerned, Bell's diarrhea has helped me, and I have explored the Allen's fever. But to me, particularly, rather than Allen's fever in particular, BBCR fever section is more useful. As far as the practical aspect of it is concerned, Allen's fever is a great work also. But I use Allen's fever repertory part for the reference, because he has given some very excellent classification in form of prodrome and also all that in a very systematic fashion. So this is my take on small repertories. Once.
Okay, sir. We don't have any more questions in the chat box.
Okay.
So I will request Navnit sir to conclude the session, and I'll request all others who have any other questions even later on, they can DM it to Dr. Navnit on his Instagram handle, and you can also write to him. Sir, I would request you to share your email ID so that people can get in touch with you.
Okay. So I should the email, or
it will be in the Instagram description, if that would be.
Okay, we will put in the Instagram description of this post. No problem. I'll share with you. No problem.
That would be great, sir. And yes, before we conclude, please subscribe, follow MLDMHI, Journal of Integrated Standardized Homeopathy, MLD Trust, for a lot of educational stuff on homeopathy. And yes, thank you all for attending the session on a Sunday morning. Very good to see all of you, the enthusiasm, the energy with which all of you have attended. And special thanks to Dr. Navnit sir for making time for the live session today. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Okay.